going live and I'm finna talk about it. Like, I don't know, that's where my mindset always been. But with that, it was a couple things that I wanted to kind of talk about, but I didn't get the chance to talk about it. So I'm probably gonna like scale back and get back around to that. But all right, so it's a few things that I really want to discuss, right? So boom, here's the first thing. What's your zodiac sign? Like, what's like my zodiac sign? My zodiac sign is Leo. But I really don't, I feel like as I've gotten older and when I look at things, I guess like through a, oh, and you know what? I actually don't want to use age. I don't really want to say as I get necessarily older. I think as I get more informed is a more appropriate term, right? As I get more informed and as I begin to break things down, and to like challenge certain ideas and like break ideas down and then put them back together and things, like my outlook on a lot of stuff just kind of like shifts, right? Because and I guess I feel like this is like I guess like a perfect first topic to I guess kind of like get into. So I guess like the question that I really want to put on the floor is like, am I an atheist? Because a lot of people be asking me, am I an atheist? And the thought just kind of like ran across my mind today, as I was watching some form of video, right? So there's a lady on here, her name is No Nonsense Spirituality. Like if you go and search her name up, it's gonna read No Nonsense Spirituality, and I believe her name is Britt Hardley. So she is a woman who is a deconstructionist, so she loves to deconstruct different like spiritual and religious, you know, beliefs and things, and she likes to kind of like cleave between fact and fiction, and really just like debunk and really like add a more historical and a more psychological or sociological informed perspective on why we worship and believe in the things that we believe. And one of her, you know, famous statements is, if you tell me a civilization and the way that this government is set up, I can tell you what kind of religion and what kind of spiritual practice it'll have, right? So for me, when it comes down to things like astrology, I am in a place of, I don't necessarily like run to discredit astrology in terms of like, I don't think that astrology is real, or I don't think that astrology is true, because my thing is never about discrediting things and saying that things are or are not real. My thing is always about discrediting, or not even discrediting, validating or debunking whether or not the context in which we believe things are real is so, right? So to cross over to something like Christianity, for example, if you were to ask me like, am I a Christian? I would tell you no, because I don't think that religious practices or spiritual practices, for that matter, are things that you're supposed to be. You're not supposed to be a noun, right? Because a noun is a person, place, a thing. You are not a religion. You are not a spiritual practice. And in the same sense, I don't think that I am a zodiac sign. So to me, because my identity does not correlate or relate to what I practice or what I believe in, I understand that to believe in something is an action, right? Which means it's a choice. And it can either be a choice or it can be a decision. Bitch, walk with me real quick. Walk with me real quick, because, bitch, I'm finna walk him on down, bitch. Hold up, ho. Walk with me real quick, because, see, I'm about to walk it down, bitch. I can feel it in my spirit. See, sometimes, you know when you just know, bitch, you finna walk down on some shit, bitch. You finna get to a place, and a bitch finna be like, I'm finna move me tonight. I feel like I'm finna move me tonight. What's up, long live the evil queen? Listen, long live the evil queen, okay? I gotta play that intro. So again, in I don't believe that your religious or your spiritual practices are supposed to be a noun, because a noun is a person, place, or thing. I am not what I practice. I am not what I believe. What I believe and what I practice is a choice or a decision, right? And when we talk about like the differences between choices and decisions, choices are things that you do without any prior knowledge, and a decision is something that you make upon being informed, right? That's why they call it an informed decision. When I decide to do something, it's because I've taken all of the factors, all of the information. I have insight, right? Like I have information. Because I've taken all of the factors, all of the information. I have insight, right? Like I have information to go off of, and with the information, whether that be exposure, experience, or whatever, I now can decide this is something that I want to proceed with, right? So to me, I chose to believe and I chose to engage with a lot of things, but once I got informed and once I got information, I don't think that I don't not believe in those things, but I decided to change the way in which I believe in which, or rather the way in which I engage with those things. So firstly, I don't think that religion and spirituality is something that should be our identity, because when it becomes our identity, it no longer, or it can no longer live inside of us, but it then becomes who we are, and we begin to live inside of it. And the danger of when an emotion, a thought, an idea, or a practice is something that you are, and when you live inside of it, it now becomes the parameter. It becomes your limit, right? It becomes the parameter of which you'll be able to understand and engage in the world. You will only be able to understand and engage in the world through this framework, right? Through this cognitive framework, through this sense of perception, intellectual, emotional, physical, so on and so forth. And I think, again, that's the folly, where a lot of us, we practice a thing and we become the thing, and then we make ourselves inseparable from the thing, and then it creates an attachment, right? And that attachment becomes a matter of our worth. Our world becomes predicated upon what we believe. So there's the attachment, and then that attachment then becomes a meshment where we can't cleave ourselves from the practice. And I think outside of attachment and enmeshment, we then find ourselves in this rather like illusioned place, because we're not really able to see things for what they are. Because our practice is in the way, right? Like if something becomes my identity, and now I see that it is me, I'm going to defend that thing to the death, right? Because the human brain is wired for defense. The human brain is wired to protect, is wired to preserve. So when I say that this is a part of me, then it's like, it's really a part of me. And I don't know, I don't think that that's healthy. I would rather choose to engage and choose to act in something and choose to perceive something a certain way. Because when I say that I choose or decide, that means that I'm informed, and it means that it's a matter of my will. It means that it is not something that controls me or that I need to control, but it's rather something that I command, right? It's something that I am engaging in, which means at any given point in time, I can let go of the thing. Because we don't have that healthy relationship that's built upon will of I decide to do this or I decide not to do this, because it's something that we're enmeshed and attached to, there's a control, right? So we're always trying to keep ourselves, cognitive dissonance, we're always trying to keep ourselves from new information or new experiences that shift the way that we see things, because the world is truly never black and white. And if you live long enough, you'll live long enough to understand that what you engage in and what you believe can in many ways be wrong. So we see this a lot of times, with a lot of Christian people that refuse to accept certain pieces of information. Like I was just reading somewhere where they said that the idea of the rapture wasn't added until like the 1820s or something. And it was like before that, there was no teaching of that. A lot of people really wouldn't, because I be hearing, and see, this is the dangerous part, right? The dangerous part about attachment and enmeshment is that when something is a part of you, it now shifts the way that you engage with the thing. If I am attached to something, I now become biased, right? There's a lot of bias when it comes down to teaching. So a biased person seeks to defend what they believe. And I don't think that religion is something that needs to be defended. Religion is something that needs to be dissected. And if I'm being quite frank, I don't think anything, well, at least perhaps maybe in an intellectual sense, right? Because I don't want to kind of like veer off and generalize, but I think a lot of things don't necessarily need to be defended. A lot of things need to be dissected, because the truth can withstand scrutiny, right? Like if something is true, then I can scrutinize it, I can tear it down, and it should still be able to stand. Something isn't true if you have to bend and contort and manipulate and shift something in order to make it true. And I think that's what a lot of people do. And you notice that, one person can come in and make a video about, Christianity, and they're coming from a biased place because they hate it. So because they hate it, they immediately want to dissent, right? They operate in a contrarian way. They want to disassemble the religion, and so therefore they come in with a level of malice, with a level of aggression. And then you got another person on the opposite end where they like it, and I feel it, and because they like it, because they love it, because it's something that is a part of their culture or has been a part of their life, they seek to present it in a holy light, in a positive light. And again, I think that this bias, because when the thing about information is that information is neutral. Like, facts are facts and information is information. But then we start to add this narrative and then this emotion and then and then it's like we pick up these tools of academia and then we wield them against ourselves or against each other. So not everybody coming in with narrative and ego and emotion and feelings and what I think about, and it's like we don't need all of that. Like, I don't want to hear someone defend Christianity. I don't want you to tell me why Christianity is a good religion. I just want you to tell me Christianity. You know what I mean? And that's something that I really strive to do. Like, anytime I engage with something, I don't want to come into something with my emotion and with my bias and with my attachment or my need to be right or my need, because that's a waste. Because the minute that I come in with something with bias, I've already closed my mind off because I'm in my ego. I've closed my mind off from wanting to learn and wanting to understand and wanting to receive because I'm so busy trying to hold down an opinion. And I think that's where a lot of us go wrong when we engage with our religious and spiritual practices as a noun, a person, place, or thing. We're trying to preserve and defend on the grounds of that person, place, or thing. This is who I am. So because this is who I am, I would not dare engage in anything outside of who I set myself to be, because my identity now acts as a shackle or a limit or a prison. I can't learn anything outside of Christianity if I'm a Christian, because at that point, what if I no longer am a Christian? So now that's going to send me into a crisis, because I've predicated my worth and my values and the way that I engage in the world upon this thing. So for me, I don't really aim to do that. And honestly, when I kind of like step back and when I view a lot of like religious practices and spiritual practices alike, I think that sometimes the way that people engage with them is like in a very robotic fashion. And when I say a very robotic fashion, what I mean by that is you can tell that the person, okay, let me say this, right? Let me give you a parallel example. Ego. You know the person where they always see themselves as the victim? Or you know the person where whatever narrative, whatever the narrative is, whatever it may be, because we all have a narrative about ourselves, right? And the narrative is just the theme that we think of ourselves in at any given point in time, right? So somebody may have the narrative of I'm a victim, or somebody may have the narrative of I'm the victor, or somebody may, whatever the narrative may be. You will meet people and that's how they see everything. It's like everything gets filtered through their cognitive framework or their cognitive narrative. Like everything about them gets filtered through this. They see everything through this lens, and the lens distorts because it's about perspective. If you want to really think about like cognitive framework or something, I'm gonna say perspective, because that's a similar thing. Now remember, perspective is based on location, right? If I'm at the bottom, everything seems huge. If I'm at the top, everything seems small. So this is what I mean when I say cognitive framework, or the theme or the lens in which we digest information. So for a lot of people, in a natural way, how some people see the world as a positive thing or a negative thing or this or that, that also translates over to a lot of religious and spiritual people where they're not really necessarily engaging with the world. They're sending the world through their filter. And they're filtering out everything. They're like, if the world is color, they're stripping all of the color. Or if the world has no color, then they're coloring it in the way that they want. And I think that kind of becomes like I think it kind of becomes robotic. And in a way, I also think that it kind of becomes intellectually lazy, right? Because you're not deciding, you're not choosing, you're not engaging, you're not understanding. You kind of let your mind, you kind of like have put your mind in like a passive mode, right? Like your mind is on autopilot. And that's what I think of when I think about like people that may be in like in ego or arrogance or like overconfidence of things. It's like you done put your mind in autopilot, and now you're building all of these conclusions and assumptions about life without ever doing your due diligence, without ever asking questions and critically thinking and challenging yourself or any of these things. And I think sometimes we don't understand how essential that is and how how important that is, and that's the reason why you have people that are in those fields. So to me, sometimes I think like the way that people engage with their practices is like very, robotic. Like they're not actually practicing their practices. Their practices is just it's just a, you know what I mean? Like a program, like, okay, yeah, this, that. So again, to answer the question, like, am I an atheist? No, I don't perceive myself as an atheist, because an atheist, or I guess maybe I've kind of fallen under the lens of atheism, but an atheist is a person that does not believe that there is a God. And I'm not inclined to say that there is a God, but I'm also not inclined to say that there is not a God. I just have not seen any substantial evidence that says either or, right? Because one thing doesn't mean another, right? So a lot of people say things like, well, when you look at this beautiful world, it's no way that you could look at the beautiful world and see how articulate everything is and say that there's not a God. And it's just like, well, I don't think that you could also look at the world and say that there is. Like, I don't think that's substantial enough. Like, that's a claim, but what is there to back up that claim? And the thing about me is, like, I don't strive to be, I'm not one of those excessive logical people. But for me, I kind of, you're very wise, thank you. For me, I kind of like take aback a little bit when people say things like being overly intellectual, because when does like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not here to be dense, right? I'm not going to sit over here and pretend like I don't understand the claim. But again, to me, I don't understand why being intellectual would ever be a bad thing, right? Like, a lot of people talk about being overly analytical or overly logical or overly this, and it's like, well, aren't we supposed to do our due diligence? Because what's the opposite of being overly logical? And again, I understand overly logical as being an access, but to me, I never, and that doesn't mean that I'm not, right? Just because I don't think something, that doesn't mean that I can't be called in and called to the floor. But at least to me, when I'm engaging with things, I don't think that it is overly logical to question something. And I don't think that it is overly logical to be slow to come to a conclusion on something. Because I understand that in order for me to make a claim, or in order for me to operate in something, I need to have an understanding. I need to have knowledge. I need to have wisdom. Otherwise, I'm blindly lumping together a bunch of conclusions and things. And I don't like to live my life in opinion, right? Like, I don't want to make life-altering decisions from opinion. Because this is the crazy thing about it, right? And this is where I come in. You have people who can't prove what they believe, but stand on their beliefs enough to tell you that you're going to hell. And that's what I mean. You can't prove nothing to me. You can't give me no evidence. You can't give me no file. You can't give me nothing. Everything that you're doing is based off of will. It's based off of will and a whim, but you sentencing me. So when we talk about, the societal, when we talk about like societal responsibility, and when we have to also understand things are bigger than us, because a lot of times we only view things from a personal level, and it's okay to engage in things in a personal level. I think that there's room for that, right? So we have to then bring in context. And it's like, I just think when you are an educated person has a process, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like there's you have your theory, you know what I mean? You have your hypothesis, you have your control group. You have these things that you conduct like a scientist to be able to make conclusions. These are things that we've been taught. Like, school teaches us, like reading teaches us comprehension and critical thinking. Math teaches us, problem solving and being able to understand variables that don't exist. Like with math, they'll give you a result, and they'll give you a partial equation, and then they'll tell you fill in the blank. Like, okay, so if we got the 4 and then there's 2, what has to be here in order for us to get there? That's called problem solving. Like, I don't see the things, but I'm able to put my mind together in a way where I can get it. Or when we talk about science helps us understand the world around us by conducting studies, right? By, doing control groups and things. These are things that were the foundation and the cornerstone of our education growing up. Because, bitch, I come from the South. I don't have, like, no grand fab at the education, but I definitely utilize what I got. See, when we was growing up, we didn't think that none of this stuff was important, but on the contrary, it indeed was, right? And that's another thing when we talk about the danger of assumption, but I'm going to get there. So, again, on a personal level, it's okay for me to believe things, but my beliefs are nobody else's responsibilities. And I feel like that's the kind of crazy place that we start to get into. There are people that can't prove the things that they believe, but then they walk around and they want to regard everyone, or want everyone to regard them in the fashion of what they believe. That to me is kind of like crazy. So to me, it's like, if I can't prove my beliefs, I'm able to hold room for people that may not believe them. And because my beliefs are for me, they're not for you. I don't understand why me being maybe like a Christian would mean that I can't engage with an atheist. Because now this isn't about, we think that this is about boundaries, and we think that this is about, you know, fellowship and community. And it's like, yeah, to a degree it can be about fellowship and community, but it can also be a matter of an echo chamber, right? It can also be a place where we cut ourselves off from being able to listen and understand and engage with other people. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people will tell you a thing of like, oh, well, a lot of people will tell you something along the lines of like, oh, well, you know, I'm protecting my space, I'm protecting my peace, I'm protecting my mental health. But a lot of times we're not really protecting our mental health. We are, you know, protecting our weakness, right? We're keeping ourselves in a place of fragility. We're crippling ourselves. Thank you for the roses. We're crippling ourselves because you don't get strong by not lifting weight. You get what I'm saying? You get strong by going through the adversity. You get strong by going into the conflict and the conflict resolution. And this, of course, is not to say that you should surround yourself by people, places, and things that are bad for you, right? This is not to say that you should be around contrarian or detrimental things to you, but it's also about being able to understand, is this detriment or is this something that just makes me uncomfortable? Because there's a thing called growing pains. So bringing it back to religion, when I think about my religious or my spiritual practices, I understand that those are things that are for me, because religion and spirituality is a very personal and it's a very sacred thing. And that's where this conversation kind of like branches off, because there's the personal level of things and then there's the more societal level of things. And when I think about the societal level of things, we have to understand that cultures, right? Or if not even just cultures, people are being raised under the umbrella of religious and spiritual practices. So the minute that you begin to inform someone of something and you inform them of the thing as though it were a truth, it now needs to be scrutinized. There is no way that I could make the United States of America, right? The United States of America's standard or primary religion, Christianity, and then not go and fact check the Christian beliefs. What is this saying? Because a lot of us, we have to understand the difference between, you know, objectivity and subjectivity. Like, we have to understand the difference between, I guess, you know, social conditioning. We have to understand the difference between social norms. And then we have to also understand the difference between our own personal journey. And to separate the two on a personal level, hi Zay, and hi Nixon if you in here. So on a personal level, when you think about what religion is for, religion is an emotional thing, right? In the same way that we as a society have laws, customs, and social norms that help us and that assist us in having a level of order, a level of stability, and a level of direction, that is the same thing that religious and spiritual practices do. Religious and spiritual practices help us gain a level of understanding, a level of clarity, a level of purpose, and a level of direction, right? The Bible tells you do this and do that and do that and do this and do this and do that, right? Is it still the Lion Son's Inn? It is. You know what I mean? The name changed, but the essence has not, right? So that's what religion is for. And I don't think that we get into that, right? We don't understand that. I think it's important for us to understand the main idea instead of getting so caught up in the theme. The main idea is purpose, direction, stability, right? Purpose, direction, stability, clarity, sense of security, right? That's the main idea. The way that that main idea gets enacted becomes a theme. So the main idea stays the same. It's the theme that changes. The theme being the story, right? When you look at religion, marketing is broken down into three categories: ethos, pagos, and logos. Now, I can't remember. I always forget which is what. I believe logos is obviously logic. I think that ethos is ethics. And I think that pathos is emotion, or ethos and pathos may be mixed. Pathos may be emotion, and ethos may be. Wait. See, I'm confused already. Wait a minute. Let me pull it up. See, I'm already confused. Okay, hold on. Pathos is emotion. I think so too. Let me pull it up. Okay, so, all right. So, okay, logos is logic, pathos is emotion. Yes, pathos is emotion, and then ethos is ethics. All right. Okay, so what's up? Well, I'm here tonight. Okay, so when we talk, why did I just read that? No, ethos is ethics. Yeah. Okay, I'm back. How you? You know what? You know what? Just to get on that, for me as a kid growing up, I got cussed out so much by my mama because I unfortunately definitely was the kid where, like, I could read something and I most definitely would forget. Like, my mama could tell me something to do something, and as soon as the words would leave her lips, I would forget. Like, I would come into a room, what was I in here for? Or like, what was I supposed to do with this? Like, oh, where am I supposed to go with that? Oh, but anyway. So, again, when it comes down to like ethos is about many things, a few things, but one of the things that ethos is about ethics, right? So ethics is about morality. Ethics is about conscience. One thing that religion and spirituality does is it teaches you ethics, it teaches you morality, it teaches you about having a conscience, right? So the way that religion does this, it does this not only through ethics, but it also does this through emotional appeal as well. When you look at movies and when you look at a lot of like books, because that's exactly what religion and spirituality is, if you really to a degree, right? Religion and spirituality is all about creativity. When you really look at it from like an academic lens, right? Because there's an academic lens and then there's a personal lens, right? So on an academic level, when you look at religion and spirituality, and the reason why I say it's like creativity, because it's using figurative language, right? You have talking trees. When the fuck did you ever know trees to talk? You got talking animals. That's figurative language. That's called personification, right? Giving human-like characteristics to non-human things. Hey, friend, you finally back? Yes, I'm back. Yes, what's up? Oh, y'all miss me? Oh, my God, we had 3K tabs. Thank y'all. Oh, my God, thank y'all. What's up? What's going on? Y'all, I'm finna be here for a while tonight. So we finna eat tonight. We 40 minutes in, but we finna eat tonight. I'm finna be here for a while. I'm not leaving no time soon. So we got a lot of things to get into, a lot of things to talk about. All right, what's going on? Thank y'all. We had 3K taps. It's 23 people up in the room. I see some faces I ain't seen in a minute. How we feeling? How we doing? What's up? What you on tonight? I'm on all that. Yeah, we outside. Right, and it's real hot out here too. So again, when you look at religion is very figurative. And when we look at like figurative language, they say that creativity is intellect at play, right? And why do they say that creativity is intellect at play? Because creativity is about taking intellectual forms and then bending them and using them to your own will in your own way, right? So when we talk about, like, for example, writing is just taking the elements of writing, right? The elements of English, and then spinning them off in your own way. Like, you using it and you coming up with things that don't already exist, right? You taking something that does exist to create something that doesn't. So I'm taking things that do exist and then I'm using that as the theme work for something that doesn't. And I'm using it to like teach. When you look at books, when you look at songs, when you look at like writing, right? It's all about a message that is trying to get to you. So that's the theme. The theme is the message of the text, but the text is going to convey that message. No. The message is the main idea of the text, right? So you have the main idea and then you have the supporting details, but then you have the theme. And the theme is just the way that we go about relaying that message through the text. So when we talk about, like, for example, in Greek mythology, there's a story in Greek mythology about Arachne, right? Arachne and Athena. Arachne and Athena. So Arachne was a silk weaver, right? She was able to weave all of these nice patterns and designs and fabrics. And she was a woman who carried a level of hubris because she was overconfident about her ability to weave. And this, caught news of Athena, because I believe that Arachne, the story has two variations. I think one level, Athena got jealous and like called the girl out because the girl was getting too much shine and too much attention and too much love. Or in the other hand, the girl was arrogant and she was like, I'm better than the gods. Ain't no god that can see me. I weave better than the gods. And Arachne and Athena, they held a contest, right? So they get into the contest, and I think that Athena had pulled up on her in the disguise of an elderly woman, right? She transformed herself into an elderly woman. She there, and she looking at the girl weave, and then she called the girl out and was like, okay, well, tomorrow we finna have a contest, and we gonna see who finna shake down. We finna see who finna shake down. And I don't know, because again, there's different variations. I don't know if Athena won or if she lost. Either way, I think Arachne won, and then Athena got angry, mad, and jealous, and then turned the girl into a spider. Either way, the girl got turned into a spider, and her name was Arachne. And Arachne, and spiders are called arachnids. So you see the connection there, right? So she got turned into a spider, and she's regarded as like the mother of spiders. And also, spiders are excellent silk weavers. You see the parallels here and all the things. So if you really want to look at that story used something in reality, right? An arachnid, a spider, a silk weaver, and it used a spider to convey the story of hubris. And then it then took all of these fictional elements and put them together in a figurative way. When we talk about figurative language, or if we're talking about literary devices, similes, metaphors, alliteration, onomatopoeias, personification, these are all forms of English. And when you look at the Bible does the exact same thing. So again, when we talk about religion and spirituality is teaching us ethics, is teaching us morality, is teaching us virtue, is teaching us about how to be virtuous people, but it's teaching us about how to be virtuous people and is using fictional means to do so. And those fictional means are meant to is meant to speak to our subconscious. It's meant to speak to our spirit, to our emotions. It's meant to, it's meant to evoke and invoke an emotional response out of us. Take, for example, your favorite TV show, right? Take, for example, something like Harry Potter or something like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, right? Lord of the Rings talks about endurance. It talks about faith. It talks about fellowship, community. It's teaching us human lessons. Take, for example, Proud Family, Moesha, the Parkers, all of those different kind of shows. A lot of those shows, they had lessons. Family Matters, A Different World. I know my parents love me. Stand beside me every day. I know now that I'm ready. I gotta always say that. But yeah, so these things came together to teach us a lesson. And sometimes sometimes the theme is fictional, and sometimes the theme may not be fictional. So sometimes it may use a human everyday thing, like A Different World use college students to teach a lesson. Or we may use gods and goddesses, but ethics, right? So when we talk about ethics, it's about moral appeal. It's about what's right. It's about what's wrong. It's about something bigger than the self. When you think about spirituality, because we deconstructing right now. When you think about spirituality is seen as the counter to the ego, right? Because what is the ego about? The ego is about the self, the individual, right? And the ego is broken down into three categories. Unfortunately, I think people kind of like, a lot of what people think about is the ego is really the id, but that's a conversation for another time. Now, the ego is broken down into three categories. You have the id, the ego, and the superego. The id is our primal self, right? It is all about impulse, and it's all about desire. Impulse, desire, instant gratification. The id has no sense of morality. It has no sense of right or wrong. It's all about impulse and desire. What I want. If the desire is to attack, it's attack. It's like a kid. You know how kids, they don't have awareness and consciousness. So they cry, they lie, they steal, they beat each other up. That's what the id is like. Then you have the ego. The ego is about personality. It's about identity. It's about I am good, I am bad, I am white, I am black. The I am becomes a construct. It becomes a house, or if not a house, it becomes a binary code. And when I say binary code, essentially I'm saying this is the rubric. Your identity, or your I am, becomes the guideline of how you act. If I say I am a passionate person, then I'm not gonna act like a person who's not passionate. If I say I am honest, I'm not gonna act like a person who's not honest, because whoever I say I am, that is gonna inform how I'm gonna act, how I'm gonna show up. And then you have your super ego. Your super ego is seen as your conscious, right? Is seen as, you know how when somebody say, oh, they got a guilty conscience? That's the super ego. And the super ego is what we regard as spirituality in parallel, right? Because spirituality is all about the ascension, the higher self. The super ego is the collection of morals and virtues and values that you have that govern you, that keep you in check, that are bigger than you. And that's what religion and spirituality does. Religion and spirituality brings us into wholesomeness, right? It brings us into wholeness. What do I mean when I say it brings us into wholeness? It takes us out of ourselves and it connects us with each other. When you listen to, at least that's what it's supposed to. When you listen to spiritual teachings in the Bible and all of these different things, it takes you out of yourself. It takes you out of your personal plight, out of what you personally went through, out of what you personally going through. And it reminds you of the bigger picture. Because when we are in our ego, when we're in our I am, when we're in our id, when we're in our sense of self and our sense of reality and our lived experiences, those things lock us off, right? When you look at a lot of the evils that are done in the world, a lot of evils are done from a place of selfishness. And when you look at a lot of the good things that are done in the world, they're done from a place of selflessness. Now, to the naked ear, when I say something like selfish and selfless, somebody think doing something for yourself and doing something for another person. No. I don't mean selfish and selfless as in an action. I'm talking about selfish and selfless as in a mindset or a state of awareness. You get what I'm saying? Like, am I thinking only about my own emotions? When we talk about selfless and selfish, we're really talking about emotional intelligence or the lack thereof, right? Amongst a many number of things. Because the selfish person is only interested in their own immediate gratification. And this is what we start talking about ego. It's about me. What do I want? What do I need? And a selfish person will hurt and harm anybody that they need to in order to get for them. When you talk about a selfish person always got to have, the last word. They always got to be right. They always got to come first. They don't care about you at all. They're not interested in teamwork. They're not interested in aligning themselves with you. And I'm talking about this in a mindset, not an action, right? Because somebody gonna hear this and think, oh, am I selfish because I be putting myself first? No, you're not selfish because you put yourself first. That's what I'm saying. I'm not talking about an action. I'm talking about a mindset. I'm talking about a person that's in a certain place. We're talking about this in a particular context, right? So again, they're not thinking about nobody else. It's all about me. Selfishness is often something that you see, in survival mode. If you see anybody that's on the hustle, that's on the grind, they don't give a fuck about you. An example of selfishness is a person who will sell you shabby product so that they can get money. They don't care about loving you. They don't care about serving you. They don't care about how that product is going to affect you. They only care about their immediate payout. Will this live be saved or uploaded for replay? I'll put it on YouTube. So that's all that a selfish person will care about. And oftentimes in our life, we care and we operate in a very selfish way. We don't care about how we talk to people or how we impact people or how we make other people feel. It's all about me. And this is what spirituality and religion comes to solve. Spirituality and religion comes and it puts you in check, right? It gives you a sense of checks and balances. It tells you that there's a higher being, right? Up top. Okay, hold on. I unfortunately sound selfish because every time I voice myself, they always try to deflect. That is not what selfish is considered. That's not considered selfish. That's not considered selfish. That's something different. So again, when we talk about like religion and spirituality kind of comes in and it solves that issue. And it does so in various ways, right? Some religions or like some practices they talk about they will talk about a being that is above you, right? And this is kind of seen as like fantasy autonomy or surveillance, right? Where it's like there's this person that's watching you, that's regarding you, and that's checking you, and that's keeping you in place. You got to understand that everybody operates, I guess you could say, differently. So for some people, the idea that God is watching them and that God is blessing them, that idea is what keeps them in a level of fear, right? It keeps them in a level of fear, it keeps them in a level of shame, and it keeps them always making sure that they're doing right because they know that they have someone else to answer to. In the same way how we as children operate in a similar fashion, because we know we have parents and our parents are watching and our parents is going to get at us if we don't do things right. So that's the way that sometimes like religion can be employed. Now, often, right, when we hear this in conversation, there are some people where they'll say this is a bad thing, this ain't good, or oh da, 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 oh, the fact that you need another being to tell you what to do in order for you to do right. I think again we're losing the plot, right? And we'll get deeper, but there is a place for something like that, and it kind of like makes sense because think about it. In a society of advanced technology, in a society of money, in a society where people are in the position to do whatever they want, imagine what people then begin to do when there is no God watching them. When a person believes that there's nothing that's watching them and there's nothing that's going to come check them and there's nothing that's going to come hold them down, then what they going to come and they going to do? They're going to do anything they want. And I mean, if you really want to, take it there, people technically do whatever they want anyway, and then they use their religion, right? It's some people where they need religion to control them, but then there's some people they control religion to still get the things that they want to do done, right? So the reality of the matter is God often is not a real thing, just in the same way that Athena is not a real thing, right? And I'm not to say that it's like, because Athena or God can be seen as an egregore. If you've ever seen the show, what's that show? It's a show called American Gods. American Gods showed you how the minute that people stopped believing and remembering and saying the name of the gods died because their power was fueled through worship. So I always tell people something about like Jesus, right? If it's 5 people that believe in Jesus, those 5 people act as a power line to the power of Jesus. So when you engage and when Jesus is blessing you, it is not Jesus that is blessing you. It is Jesus that is blessing you through the power or is sourced from the power of people's beliefs. If the people were to stop believing, then Jesus will have no power. But you don't know that. All you see is the figurehead. You don't understand what empowers the figurehead. So now you engaging with Jesus, and because Jesus is blessing you, you start thinking, Jesus is real, Jesus is real. Yes, Jesus is real, but why is Jesus real? And that's the question that we need to start asking. We need to stop asking what, and we need to start asking why. You know what I mean? Not what is true, why is it true? I think that's a more appropriate and better question, because a lot of things are true, but let me give you this example, right? Within the context of what I just said, if I understood, like, telling me that Jesus is real is one thing, right? But then telling me that Jesus is real because you believe in Jesus is another thing, right? That changes the way that you engage with the material. And that's why I think deconstruction is so important. And this is why I think that looking at things from an intellectual space is important, because it's not about just being intellectual or not. It's about being able to be all things. You can still have a relationship and then also have awareness, right? Because without awareness, without knowledge, without information, it changes the way that you engage and interact with the material. A lot of us, we hear things, and the reason why I say that it's important to deconstruct is because you have people that's telling you that you are Hebrew Israelite. You have people telling you that you are a descendant of the sun. You got people telling you that you are a product of the Anunnaki gods. And the reason why this shit is so crazy is because religion and spirituality is nothing but an elaborate poem. And that's like me telling you that you the caged bird that sing. That's like me telling you that you the rose that grew from the concrete. Like, this is a matter of a lack of education. The issues and the flaws that we have within religion is a result of us not comprehending literary devices. Religion and spirituality is a literary device in part. The gods and the goddesses and the stories, they're not real. They're egregored, which means they're real because you believe in them. You can believe in something so much so that you can create it. For example, when we talk about Christmas, everybody believes in the spirit of Christmas, and the belief in the spirit of Christmas, guess what? It creates a feeling, a sensation that was able to be felt whenever, the times came, right? We've been taught to be programmed and controlled by false information our whole lives. And here's the thing, right? Because that is a true statement. But we have to, but that statement is true. And the thing that I want to get ahead of is the implication of that statement, because that statement implies a level of powerlessness. It implies that the powers that be are spinning propaganda. Propaganda only works on an uneducated group of people. Let's keep that in mind. Hold on. Because I do not want us to fall in the victimization trap, and we finna get over there. That's why I'm staying on this. Let me run through this a little bit more, and I'm finna get over there. I do not want us to fall in the victimization trap. Propaganda and programming only operates in people that do not have self-awareness, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, because those things are the requisites to free will. You do not have free will, right? Which means you can't make decisions and choices when you don't know what the decisions and the choices are. Free will exists, but it only happens when you got self-awareness, which is awareness of self, how my lived experiences, emotions, and thoughts, and values and things, right? Bias plays into life, right? And then knowledge of what is and what's not, understanding of how to do those things, and then skill, being able to do those things effectively, wisdom. So until you have those things, you can't really get things done. So when we say things like we've been taught to be programmed and controlled by false information our whole lives, yes, that is true. But that is also a product at this junction, or at this impasse in time, that is also a product of us not valuing education. Because the reality of the matter is, and I don't know if I can say this all across the board. I don't know if this is something that can be said all across the board. But I do know that science and math and reading is something that's taught. Now bitch, that no child left behind fucked a lot of hoes up. I ain't gonna lie, bitch. That no child left behind fucked a lot of hoes up. But as a community, we do not value education. And an educated community is a powerful community. It's not hard for me to break down religion because I'm educated. And I know I haven't gone to college yet. But it didn't take a college education for me to be able to sit down and engage in media, because I know what a poem is. I know what literary devices is. I know how to read and write. You know what I mean? So it's like, it don't take me to have all, like, I think sometimes we think that we have to be these scholars, and I don't think we actually even really sometimes understand what a scholar is, right? Like, for example, when we talk about like a singer, a lot of people think that a singer is somebody that was just born with this godly divine talent, and that's not always the case. Whether a person is born with godly or divine talent or not is sometimes, and most of the times, irrelevant to whether or not that person is able to practice, whether or not that person has knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, right? Knowledge, technique, and skill. So for me, I can take a certain level of skill and I can do other things. Like, I can leverage my elementary, middle school, and high school education to be able to go and do other things. Like, I didn't need to go to college to be able to say that's bullshit, because it's like, I don't know. So again, I think for many of us, we don't really value education. We don't value education, and we don't value intellectualism. And the reason behind this is because we care more about our opinion than we care about fact. It's a lot of things that we do. We don't want to know the truth, and we sure as hell don't want to apply it, right? And I'm only saying that on a personal level. Now, on a societal level, things change, right? Because there's books being banned. It's a lot of things being done. But I also think even with that, right? We knew that them books was being banned. I don't know if people knew it or not, but Project 2025 was something that came out well before, and it said this is like the motherfuckers came through and said this is what we finna do. And now they doing it, and everybody like, oh my God, this is getting done. They already said they was gonna do this. I already knew everything that's happening. I already knew it was gonna happen because they literally came out and said it. Like, for example, they finna get ready to do some things with the military. I mean, not the military, but the police. They're getting ready to grant the police immunity, which means that you will not be able, pardon me, you will not be able to take a police officer to court for nothing. They're gonna grant immunity, which means they will essentially be above the law. I knew that. So when it happened, I'm not gonna be shocked because they already said this is what we finna do. Right? Where you see these people running, like, these are things that we already know. And the problem is like, we sit around as I'm gonna say as black folk, because I think this is a conversation of black people. As black people, we sit and we are a little bit too helpless for my liking. And the helplessness is not a systemic form of helplessness. It's an individual and a communal form of helplessness, because we've allowed ourselves to be conditioned and to be programmed, and we've allowed ourselves to get into a level of complacency in the face of injustice, right? So when people be saying things like, oh my God, we being programmed, yeah, of course we being programmed when we not teaching our youth nothing. Yeah, of course we being programmed when we don't give a fuck about community. Yeah, of course we being programmed when we're not investing in our own, right? That don't have nothing to do with the white man. That has everything to do with us. Like, what are we teaching our children? What are we teaching one another? We teaching propaganda and then wondering why everybody's so programmed. We teaching each other propaganda and wondering why we program, or we sit in the face of propaganda and then we don't want to let it go. So it's a thing that we have a responsibility in doing, right? It's not to say that everything is our fault and we to blame. No, because we're not, right? But we have to take accountability though, right? It's definitely an accountable thing. Because accountability is the aftermath of an action. I can't hold us as black people responsible for where we are, because we do not have the systemic authority to change where we are yet. But I can say that we have to take accountability, because responsibility is before, accountability is after. Now we are aware of all the things that are being done. Now what are we going to do about it? And seemingly the attitude of everything is, oh, we oppressed. Oh. We like to gather in huddles, in herds, and bitch, we like to get in gaggles and talk about injustice and crimes, but I don't give a fuck about injustice and crimes, because I'm a child that is a rose that grew from the concrete. Bitch, ain't nothing stopped me. Trauma didn't stop me. Anti-intellectualism didn't, bitch, ain't shit stopped me. You get what I'm saying? So my mindset is, bitch, if it couldn't stop me, I know that bitch, let me get in the field. Bitch, let me get in the field with my people and let's go combat. Because some people are going to get gathered up. And that's okay, because we don't all have the same bandwidth. There's a lot of things that done came and gathered me up. But if I know more than you, I can help you. We can teach each other. We can learn. We can grow. That's community. We don't be on that. The mindset be, oh, girl, you know, man, fuck all of that. I don't give a fuck. I don't. I be hearing people talk about, oh, you know, they be burning down how. Okay, it's war. We in wartime. What we doing? I don't know why oppression would make us relent. I think that oppression would make me relentless, because I got something worth fighting for. Maybe we've lost sight of that. The answer is each other. I'm not here to fight for a religion. I'm not here to fight for a God. I'm not here to fight for a practice. And I'm not here to fight for culture. I'm here to fight for the people that created all of those things. And I think that's the problem, because we're fighting for all the wrong things. We're fighting for folly, right? And the definition of folly is foolishness, lack of good sense, an ornamental decoration that has no purpose or value. We're fighting for things that have no purpose, no value. They're just decorative. No function, just decorative. Empty things. There's no value behind that. So again, going back to like religion and spiritual practices, if you were to ask me, do I believe in religion? Do I believe in a spiritual practice? No, because I would like to argue that religious practices and spiritual practices were never something that you were ever supposed to believe in the first place. That's the premise You get what I'm saying? That's the claim that I want to put on the floor. I don't believe that you were ever supposed to believe and worship religious practices in the first place. And I think the fact that we did begin to worship religious and worship practices, I think that it is an error that arose from a lack of education. Because when I think of a religion and when I think of a spiritual practice, I think of something similar to a poem, right? I think of something of a literary device. I think of something in the realm of creativity, a creative poem-like edifice that is used to teach, right? That is used to instill virtues and values and ethics and morals. These things were never supposed to be real. Like, I don't really know if Buddhism or Buddha was a real person. And even if Buddha was a real person, it really would not matter. To me, wouldn't matter if Jesus was a real person. It's like, I think because we don't have the education, we've now began to take fictional things and turn fiction into nonfiction. Like, we think that poems are real because that's what this stuff is. It's like, where is there a burning bush? And I don't know, because then people will then bring in their personal lived experiences. But the funny thing about bringing in your personal lived experiences, and here's the thread that when pulled breaks everything down. What people refuse to accept is that religious and spiritual practices are created by who? Isn't anything real you give energy to because you believe that it's real? But believing that something is real doesn't mean that it's real. It just means that you believe that it is. And that can be considered delusion or psychosis. If I was to run around here butt naked, and if I was to tell y'all, I got wings and I can fly, does that mean that I really got wings and I really can fly? No, but it means that I believe it. And if I believe it strong enough, you may just put me in a straitjacket and put me in that house. So we got to keep in mind that, like, you know what I mean? It's something that you believe, but it's a personal thing. Your personal beliefs should not then become your cognitive framework, right? Or the filter in which you see life through. Because then that takes away free will. That becomes projection, right? But your truth doesn't have to be everyone's truth. Then it's not truth. It's opinion. It's interpretation. It's not truth. It's opinion. It's interpretation. Truth means a fact. If it can't be scrutinized, then it's no longer a fact. It's a personal belief. And you can believe whatever you wish to believe, but you have to understand that because it falls in the category of a belief, that means that you cannot engage with it like a fact. Come on. Girl, come on, somebody. Hold on, bitch. I felt that in my spirit. I don't know about somebody else, but bitch, hold up, oh. Bitch, I felt that in my spirit, oh. Bitch, that fucking moved me. Oh, my God, bitch, hold up. That took me through there. Girl, oh, my God. Hold up, oh. Bitch, hold up. Hold on. Wait a minute, bitch. Hold on. Wait. I gotta play my song now. Go, hold up, oh. Bitch, I gotta play my fucking song, oh. Yeah. Bitch, I gotta play my fucking song, oh. Bitch, that moved me. Girl, that moved me. No wonder why believers get upset. Bitch, I gotta put this on YouTube. I'm sorry, this got to go on YouTube, girl. I tore this up. Yes, academia.
Get auto tech training at Universal Technical Institute. And
hold on. Dang. Oh, I thought my speaker died.
Become career ready.
Let's hurry up. This is so, girl, you know what? If this wasn't a live setting and if they couldn't ban me for prostitution, I definitely would throw it in a circle. Wait, this why K-Niece, yeah. Oh, it's raining. All right, well, that is why when I'm having like a good night and a good live, not start raining. All right, well, that's the end of this live. When it start raining, I'll be back. What it is, it's 11:41. I probably might come back around 12 per se. I don't know. But yeah, so I'm out. Y'all have a good night. This is a good conversation. This is a good time. Now, why on the night when I got all the things of the things of the things, now it start raining? Like, what? Is it raining for real? Yeah, it's raining for real. All right, I'm out.